Well, hello and welcome to Serial at Midnight. I am Heath, and in this episode, we're reviewing Countess Dracula, 1971 Hammer Films, starring Ingrid Pitt. This is one that a lot of people love very dearly. It comes to us by way of Imprint's Hammer Horror 4 Gothic Horror Films box set. These are the films included. This is our first stop in this box set. We got to talk about where Hammer was at this time. 1971, all these movies are 1971. Hammer in the 70s is a different thing. It's a different beast. The golden age of the 50s and the 60s has come and gone. And it's also worth mentioning that in 1969, the man who'd been at the rudder for Hammer through all of those successes steps down. So Hammer, moving into the 70s, is a different company. They're competing with Hollywood now. Hollywood has caught up to the kind of movies that Hammer was making when Hollywood wasn't making them. So Hammer has to step it up. They have to try new things, and they try lots of different things. Countess Dracula is one of those attempts. It's Ingrid Pitt, who was not in a ton of Hammer movies or horror movies. She's our Countess, basically the Countess of Bathory, even though they don't call her that. Countess of Bathory was a real historical character who is allegedly associated with the death of about 600 virgins. She would bathe in their blood, supposedly to keep herself young. Now, a lot of this is mythology. A lot of this has not been historically verified, but there's enough there that it's a very interesting story. So that's where our movie finds us. It is just a different thing. It's got a more methodical pacing, a lot of nudity. Ingrid Pitt bears herself, and other actresses bear themselves as well in a way that we didn't get a lot of before the 70s. I should also mention, of Hammer's output, they made about 180 movies during the lifespan of their company. I'm talking about the classic era, not necessarily the revived company, but through the late 70s. About 180 movies, 50 of those, roughly 50, are horror. And these films that we're going to be talking about all take place around the last 10. Of the 50 horror movies, these come from the last 10. This is the last gasp for Hammer horror and for Hammer in general. But they're doing some interesting things here. Ingrid Pitt is in old age makeup. Here's the premise of the movie. No spoilers. Premise of the movie is that she is this countess whose husband has died. She has lots of money, this huge castle, but she's old, right? She has her eyes set on this young, handsome man. And when an incident leads to some blood being splashed on her face, she realizes that she looks so much younger where the blood was. Enter the carnage, right? You see where it goes. So she will bathe in the blood, but it doesn't last forever, and she will revert back to her old self. But every time she reverts back, it's even more severe. She's even more decrepit every time she transforms back. So we've got kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of a thing. Where it's a transformation, physical transformation. And that gives Ingrid Pitt a lot to work with. And I think that she had a great time with this role, though she's dubbed, which is a very unfortunate thing. She was not allowed to use her own voice. They overdubbed her with another voice. But this movie is full of Gothic, sort of Eastern European flair. Even though it's Hammer, Hammer looks like Hammer, and it does look like Hammer, all those locations. But it has an Eastern European flair, and it's got a lot of. They've stepped up the violence, they've stepped up the gore, they've stepped up the sex and the nudity, and they're competing. I'm telling you, they're competing with where Hollywood was going in the 70s. So this is a loaded edition. It's the 1080p presentation of the film. I don't think any of these transfers are new. There's nothing to tell me that they're new transfers, but. An audio commentary by Ingrid Pitt and critics Kim Newman and Stephen Jones. Now, Ingrid Pitt has passed away for over a decade now, I think. I think she died in 2010. But the commentary exists. It's in the archives. I think it comes from a network DVD release where Kim Newman and Stephen Jones speak with Ingrid Pitt about the movie. There's another commentary with Ingrid Pitt, director Peter Sasdy, and writer Jeremy Paul, and actor Jonathan Southcott. So again, predates the Blu-ray format, probably. Goes back to the DVD era. Audio commentary by Hammer historians Jonathan Rigby and Kevin Lyons. That is 3 audio commentaries on this release. Vampire Lover, The Life and Career of Ingrid Pitt. That's a new visual essay from Kat Ellinger that runs about 30 minutes. Traces Ingrid Pitt all the way back. She went through the Nazi camps. It's a very tragic story, but look at what she did when she came out of it. She really had this wonderful arc to her life. Blood Countess, Bathory on Film, a visual essay by Kat Ellinger. That's another 20-minute plus. The two of those together are going to run about an hour, talking about the Countess of Bathory, that story that we're, it's not, I don't want to say it's a legend because she was a real person and she may very well have done a lot of these things. Talking about the real historical figure and how that has been translated to film over the years. Immortal Countess, The Cinematic Life of Ingrid Pitt featurette. I believe that's the Ballyhoo feature. There are some Ballyhoo features on this box set that predates this release. They go back to, I think it's the Synapse Films release of these movies. Archival video and audio interviews with Ingrid Pitt. They've got her on British television after she'd written her book, and they're talking about her book. Interview with director Peter Sasdy by Hammer historian Marcus Hearn. A 2021 interview with actor Leon Lissek. A 2021 interview with Gabriel Ronet. Isolated music score audio track. That's cool. So if you like the music, they have the isolated score. And then theatrical trailers and still gallery. So if you like Countess Dracula, and really what's not to like, this edition is stacked and loaded. It's a fun movie. And it really gets into a lot of areas that it makes you wonder what could have been if Hammer had made it into the 80s, like what if some of these actors had a chance to come back around and reprise not necessarily their roles, but Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, they were off the table during this time for Hammer. What would have happened if some of these had become featured players for decades plus, but we have the work, we have the films. So Countess Dracula is part of the Imprint box set. I'll put a link in the description of this video if you would like to order this. But what do you think about Hammer horror? What do you think about Countess Dracula? Let's talk about Ingrid Pitt in the comments below. Guys, thank you so much. Until next time, here's where to go and what to do.